Without further ado, Mr. Kelvin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darcy, for the introduction. So before I proceed, just allow me to share my PowerPoint presentation. All right, so I guess in a short while, you'll be able to see my slides. But before that, let me just make it larger. So I hope you can see my slides by now, shown on your screens. So thank you very much to Miss Darcy and of course Miss Sally from IUCN SSC Amphibian Specialist Group for kindly inviting me here today to do this online sharing with you on a topic which I regard as rather unorthodox by the topic of leapfrog into sustainable nature tourism for advocacy of conservation, the story of Anurans or frogs and toads tourism. So ladies and gentlemen, why I say that this sharing might be rather unorthodox, even though it's going to focus on batrachological works that I have done in this part of the world, but I have done injection of perspective from sustainable and responsible tourism, as well as the creation of a nature tourism product by the name of Anurans Tourism, for the mere reasons for us to get even stronger societal buy-in, as well as industrial support for us to do conservation of Anurans stronger and also more fervently in this part of the world. So before I proceed, even though I know Miss Darcy has done a bit of introduction of myself, but I just would like to share a bit more about myself. So my name is Kwee Boon Hee, or you can call me Kelvin. And I am a researcher, also a lecturer at the Institute for Tropical Biology and Conservation, or ITBC, University Malaysia Sabah, UMS, in the state of Sabah, North Borneo, in Malaysia. And I've been working on Anurans, frogs and toads in Sabah, in Borneo for the last 2 decades. But due to my industrial exposure, I'm also able to inject the perspective and also the foundation of sustainable and responsible tourism into batrachological work that I'm doing in Sabah, as well as in Borneo and in Malaysia, so that we can create something called Anurans tourism for us to build a even stronger, like I said earlier on, societal buy-in, as well as industrial support for us to go forward stronger in the conservation of Anurans. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my sharing today. Hopefully, it will give you, a new perspective, new views when it comes to batrachological work or works pertaining to Anurans in Sabah as well as in Borneo. So, the sharing of mine pertaining to my journey to create Anurans tourism for conservation, like it or not, I have to attribute it to 3 different factors or 3 happenings that I'm blessed with in my journey of creating this new idea. Of course, I'm sure today, even right now, when I'm talking to you all and we are all here listening to this sharing, there will be a big question mark on whether Anurans is really feasible and pragmatic in nature tourism, or whether Anurans tourism is something that we can really practice and we can really, highlight to the society as well as the industry. Well, if you were to ask me, I will give you an affirmative answer. I will say yes, and I will attribute it to the 3 happenings in my journey in creating this Anurans tourism, in order for us to create more fervent conservation of Anurans, especially in Sabah, in Borneo, as well as in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing, ITBC Frog Museum was successfully established in December 2003 until April 2009. And I believe this is the first and the only frog museum in Sabah, as well as in Borneo, and perhaps even in Malaysia at that period of time. That is in 2003 all the way to 2009. And we created this ITBC Frog Museum, not just as a platform for us to highlight our, pathological research and also findings and results, but it is also a platform for us to do our outreach program in order to create a bigger pool of people who really can love, who have the passion, and also would like to contribute in the conservation and the appreciation of Anurans, frogs and toads. And I like it when the local media labeled the Frog Museum as a way to make science work. And I believe that the science here refers to the conservation of Anurans in Sabah, in Borneo, as well as in Malaysia. So this was actually one effort that we have done. And even though the ITBC Frog Museum ended in April 2009, but the concept and also the framework continue to exist in a rebranded facility that we have in the institute under Gallery Bonensis, whereby we still keep the portion pertaining to Anurans, and we call that section Amazing Anurans, still using it as a platform for us to create the buy-in as well as the support that we need from the communities as well as the industries. That is number one. Number two, I believe it is our effort to bring it to the national attention. And when we bring it to the national attention, we use great publication in a magazine called Prospect Malaysia, issue 11, published in October 2009. And we highlighted the fact that there is a new product in the market, in nature tourism market or nature-based tourism market in Sabah as well as in Borneo by the name of Anurans tourism. And it is not just a new market, it's not just a new product, but also it is a new avenue for us to bring forward Anuran conservation, especially when we know that nature tourism is a big industry in Sabah where I'm working at, and also the fact that this will be able to help us to create the the attention that we need, from the general public. And of course, working very closely with the state government. And we know that Sabah is very famous for its natural treasures and resources, and also, like I said earlier on, for the nature tourism industry. So we managed to work with Sabah Tourism Board, and we were able to create an infographic. And this is actually done thanks to Sabah Tourism Board and, of course, a colleague of mine. I hope he's in the audience, by the name of Mr. Murphy Ng. And that was the first time in 2013, Anurans or frogs and toads in Sabah has been acknowledged as one of the eco-treasures of nature tourism in the state of Sabah. We know that Sabah is one of the most successful states when it comes to nature tourism in Malaysia. So we are very happy.
I'm sorry, Kelvin, could I just ask, what I'm seeing on my screen is just still the main cover picture, so I don't know if it's going on your presentation.
All right.
properly.
Which slide are you looking at right now?
It's just the front cover slide, the
cover slide.
1.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if it's on a different screen and it hasn't shared correctly.
Yeah, because I've moved on. So thanks for telling me, Sally.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I will stop sharing and I'll reshare again. Is that all right?
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, welcome.
I don't want to miss
Sorry for that.
Yeah,
sorry for that.
No,
Yeah.
sorry.
I guess what I need to do is to share the entire screen and not just the application.
I think I've done the same thing before, and
Yeah.
someone had to point it out to me. So
sometimes, when you share just the yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out, Sally. I was thinking also there's something wrong with it.
Sorry
okay,
for
yeah,
that.
that's better. That's perfect.
Yes, so
you can see your lovely infographics.
Yeah, this one is, I think it's right.
Yeah, okay. So tell you what, I'm going to go back because I have to do justice to the slides that I've prepared so that everybody get to see what I've done before. So what happened is earlier on, I was saying that, when it comes to Anurans tourism, there are three things that I'm really, blessed with that enable me to go on this journey of creating Anurans tourism for us to create societal buy-in as well as industrial support for Anuran conservation in Sabah, in Borneo, as well as in Malaysia. The first one is of course the creation of ITBC Frog Museum in December 2003 until April 2009. And of course, now it has been incorporated as part of our bigger infrastructure and facility by the name of Gallery Bonensis. And the corner is still there. It's called Amazing Anurans Corner. And of course, bringing up the idea to the national level by using Grey Publications, through a magazine called Prospect Malaysia in October 2009. And of course, as I've mentioned just now, right before I rectified the issue with the technicality. So I was talking about how we need to work closely also with the state government. Yeah, the state government, because Sabah is well known for tourism, nature tourism. So in 2013, we were very fortunate to be able to be acknowledged by Sabah Tourism Board with the help of our colleague, Mr. Murphy Ng, who is also affiliated with Sabah Tourism Board, in order to include Anurans for the first time ever, as one of the eco-treasure when it comes to the nature tourism industry in Sabah. So that is actually a big step for us, because that was the first time ever. After 10 years, we talk about it to the state government as well as to the local communities and industries. Finally, the state government, the agency that is responsible for tourism in Sabah, acknowledge it as one of the eco-treasure for the industry. So this is actually an infographic that have been produced in 2013 and is still being used for promotional activities and also publicity activities. So many of you will be asking me, so how do you get the idea of doing Anurans tourism? Well, it is of course not done without any foundation. It is of course not done without any justification. I guess the biggest justification that we can relate to is of course the huge diversity of Anurans worldwide, as well as coming to Malaysia, as well as Borneo and Sabah itself. So the latest count, you have got 7,000 over species of Anurans in the world. And in Malaysia, we have about more than 340 species, with 250 species in Borneo. And Sabah alone possesses about 120 species. So this is actually a big number, a big number for us to use as resources when it comes to nature tourism in the state. So we are talking about, half of the species diversity in Borneo is actually in Sabah. And we are talking about 1/3 of the species diversity in Malaysia is actually in Sabah. So this is one resource that we definitely have to make good use of in order for us to create, like I said earlier on, the buy-in and the support that we need from the communities as well as from the industries. Of course, zooming into Sabah, if you can see from this biogeographical map that we have produced from our research, out of the 7 families, more than 30 genera, more than 120 species, we have got about 16 to 20% of endemism. And if you look at the geographical map that we have produced for Borneo using an application called World Map, you can clearly see that northern part of Borneo, where I'm working in, has got very high diversity as well as endemism. And you can see clearly there are actually 5 spots distributed evenly between East Coast and West Coast. So on the West Coast, you have the Crocker Range, where you find the Mount Kinabalu and all the surrounding area. And then on the East Coast, we have got areas like Maleo Basin, Danum Valley Conservation Area, Tabin Wildlife Reserve, as well as Tawau Hills Park, under the Sabah Parks jurisdiction. So as you can see, diversity is there, endemism is there, and that is the reason why we do have a prospecting model for us to justify the potential of Anurans as a as a valuable nature tourism product that we can highlight. And that is actually a big foundation for the creation, the journey of us creating Anurans tourism in Sabah, as well as in Borneo for Malaysia and also the region. Number one, of course, is endemism. We know that in Borneo, the endemism is about 60% or more. Then in Sabah, the endemism is about 20%, more or less. And rarity is also another factor, another criterion that is very important. And this is also something that Anurans fulfill very well, yeah, especially when it comes to Sabah and Borneo. Reliability of sightings, I know that Miss Darcy has predilection when it comes to studying acoustic, of Anurans, frogs and toads. So sometimes you don't see them, but for sure you will be able to hear them. And this is very evident if you go to any piece of forest in Sabah as well as in Borneo, reliability of sightings is there. Sightings not just visually but also acoustically, audioly. Morphological attractiveness is also one criterion that is used to justify, because we know that they are attractive in terms of the patterns, the dorsal patterns, the ventral patterns, as well as the body parts and colorations and so on. Behavioral enticement, we do have flying frogs in Borneo, in Sabah, 5 species of the flying frogs. We do have translucent frogs. We do have frogs that can leave coloration on your hand, on your finger if you touch them. And then also we do have a lot of other behaviors that are really unique and interesting to be highlighted. And all this becomes very important knowledge, for the general public, the community, as well as the industry, to realize and also to tap in order to conserve and appreciate Anurans together with us, researchers who are working on studying the organisms itself. Safety is one criterion that is very important as well, because we know that Anurans pose no danger to to human beings. I'm talking about Borneo as well as Malaysia in general. So the only thing is that we are always training the tour frontliners as well as the community and the industry. If they handle or they deal with Anurans, they must know how to deal with them properly, ethically, so that safety is also related to the Anurans, not just to the human beings. Last but not the least, Anurans in Sabah and Borneo, they are very much closely related and linked to local cultures, and this is also part and parcel of how we make it a success, how we justify Anurans tourism, and also how we make Anurans tourism a success in Sabah and Borneo as well as Malaysia at large. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to give you one example, this is one Anuran species that is endemic to Borneo, and this is the long-snouted frog. And this long-snouted frog actually hasn't been seen many times throughout the history of batrachology in Borneo. It has been recorded 8 times, and the first record was actually recorded in 2008 by my team and I at Tawau Hills Park, on the east coast of Sabah, and we published this in Herpetological Review, volume 39/3 in 2008, and the record is now with the American Museum of Natural History as a state record, as a state record, a new state record of this species for the state of Sabah. Of course, just to give you another example, we talk about behavioral enticement. So this is one example, the sticky frog of Sabah and Borneo, whereby they are able to do handstand, and we are able to use this kind of behavior, for us to relate the uniqueness of Anurans as a natural resource from Sabah, from Borneo, as well as in Malaysia, to the community as well as to our visitors, whether they are international or local. Again, for the mere purposes of creating fervent buy-in as well as support that we need for us to move forward in conservation of Anurans. So you might be asking me, so what can Anurans tourism, this idea, this new, you know, contribute, to the satisfaction of, especially in the industry, because when we talk about nature tourism industry, visitor satisfaction is one very important factor that we must always make sure that we fulfill. So when we have Anurans tourism, one of the most important contribution is providing fun activities at night. And this is related to night walks, related to night safari, related to night trail observation. All right. So this is one very important, I would say, factor that we use to tell people what Anurans tourism can contribute to the community as well as to the industry by having fun activities at night, educational fun activities at night. And of course, providing unique experiences like you see on the slide. These are some of the pictures of us going to the forest, doing frogging at night, and also walking the river, and also, doing frogging even at highlands, on leaf litter trails and whatnot. Next, of course, is new knowledge and different view of nature. And this, we realize, becomes very powerful, especially when we use Anurans as a very important focus for us to do education for sustainable development or education, environmental education. And this one is very particular when it comes to the younger generation, because we realize that we need the younger generation as the feeder group, the feeder cohort. For once we are not around anymore, at least we know that this field, this scope, the conservation of Anurans will not stop once we are no more around, but it will be carried on by younger generation. So we use it for our environmental education as well as education for sustainable development programs and activities. And you can see the pictures, how we have done it with a different group of young people from local and also international. And of course, you might be wondering, so in this journey of creating Anurans tourism using frogs and toads of Sabah, Borneo, and Malaysia, for us to create societal buy-in and industrial support. So is there any outcomes that we can refer to, that we can highlight? Of course there are. Number one, I really have to mention the fact that Tabin Frogs Home. I know that there are some colleagues from Tabin here, so a big shout out to all of you. And this is from what we have observed in 2024 when I was there to do in-house training for them. And we realized that, they are really making it as a very, a very solid product that they are highlighting in Tabin Wildlife Resort, which is situated in Tabin Wildlife Reserve, and they have a Tabin Frog Home. Yeah, so this is one of the outcome that we are very proud of, because this is really showing the industrial support, how they use tourism, Anurans tourism, in order to create that buy-in and also the support. Of course, moving on to the other side, adjacent to Tabin Wildlife, this is the Danum Valley Conservation Area with a resort named Borneo Rainforest Lodge. We are also able to ensure that the industry create the buy-in for this product. And this is what we have done in that lodge, Borneo Rainforest Lodge, in Danum Valley. And this was done in 2023. And these are some of the observation that we have done, some of the materials that we have created for the lodge, for the industry in Danum Valley. And of course, making sure that not just the conservation areas like Tabin Wildlife Reserve or Danum Valley Conservation area, but also the general public are able to enjoy such a program or activity in creating that buy-in and support. And this is through the creation of Frog Camp. And in 2012, we were able to organize the first ever frog camp in Borneo and also in Malaysia, using the knowledge and also skills pertaining to bacteriological works, and then the results that we have produced from our studies and research, in order to create materials and activities which are fun and educational, as well as changing perspective among young people who join this frog camp. And this was actually done at the center, at the foot of Mount Kinabalu. Yeah? And of course, creating a lot of media programs or media materials like this to serve, different cohort of the society. Yeah, and this is mainly targeted to those Chinese-speaking, cohort of the community as well as visitors in the industry itself. Of course, the other outcomes that we are very proud of is the success of us making Anuran tourism as one module that tourist guide, need to go through and need to understand and need to pass in order for them to get licensed to be licensed tourist guide in Sabah as well as in Sarawak. And this is through a program called the Region-Specific Tourist Guide course or the Continuous Tourism-Related Education Program. And this is done in collaboration with a partner of ours by the name of Borneo Tourism Institute in Kota Kinabalu. So starting from 2000 until now, for a span, a duration span of about 25 years, every year we have got about 40 tourist guide going through this program in order to be licensed. So if you calculate and tabulate, not less than 1,000 licensed tourist guides in the state of Sabah have gone through Anuran tourism training module. And we are talking about 1,500 to 2,000 licensed tourist guides in total in the state of Sabah. So we are talking about 80%, 90% of all the tourist guides in Sabah have been trained on this new nature tourism product called Anurans tourism, relating to the uniqueness of Anurans in Sabah, in Borneo, in order to create that industrial buy-in and also the support that we need. So this is just to show you the online training program that we have done, especially during the pandemic era, whereby we have to do it online, and this is what we have done. And of course, now we are doing it physically, face to face. So of course, not just in Sabah, but like I said, Borneo as a whole. So we also have done similar thing, and this is in participation to the International Bornean Frog Race, in 2016 as well as 2018. And this is where I first met Miss Darcy. So I'm very honored and privileged to have met her here during the International Bornean Frog Race. So in this International Bornean Frog Race organized by University Malaysia Sarawak, UNIMAS, under a very established and also esteemed herpetologist, Professor Indranil Das. So I was given the honor and privilege to join in 2016 and 2018 as national speaker to talk about Anurans, especially Anurans pertaining to Anurans tourism, as well as in education for sustainable development and environmental education, to create younger generations who are in love, who really have passion when it comes to conserving and protecting our Anuran diversity in Sabah as well as in Borneo. So, of course, not forgetting our Peninsula Malaysia, which is across the sea. We also have done similar training workshop for them in 2016. And out of that, we produced, a guidebook called Anurans of Taman Negara Johor Andarompin, published in 2017. And this is also, a very important, a milestone, a big milestone for us to achieve, because we venture out eventually into Peninsula Malaysia. Of course, we talk about Sabah, we talk about Sarawak, we talk about Borneo, we talk about Peninsula Malaysia, but we believe that in our journey of highlighting and upholding Anurans tourism for conservation, we have to bring it to the international arena. And this is what we have done in the training course on sustainable and resilient tourism beyond frontiers training program that we have organized between my institute and also university with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Malaysia under the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, NTCP. And we are able to train, tourism officers. These are not tourist guides, but tourism officers from 11 countries within ASEAN itself, as well as far off to Azerbaijan and also Kyrgyzstan in Central and West Asia. So we are very proud to organize this, and I think some of the members might be with us. And it is with honor to mention that, frog tourism has become one of the most important take-home messages that they are able to bring back to their countries in order to implement. So like it or not, we have now become a role model. The product is no longer just a nature tourism product for conservation, but it is now becoming a role model for ASEAN countries as well as the rest of Asia. Yeah. So of course, as an outcome, as a ripple effect of this international training program, next we are going to zoom into our partners in Brunei, and I think some of them might be here in the sharing, online sharing. So a big shout out to our Brunei friends. So we're going to bring this idea to Brunei, very soon. And we have started actually in July, but we're going to do that again more actively and fervently, so that this idea, even though starting from Sabah for Borneo, but it will eventually, ripple out to Brunei, to Kalimantan, and elsewhere in the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, our training program is based on this module. And as you can see from the module, we ensure that when we do the training on Anurans tourism, it is not just telling them how beautiful and wonderful our Anuran species are in Sabah, but more importantly, is to inject the idea of conservation, appreciation, as well as the valuing of Anuran diversity in the world. So when we do this, then there'll be more and more people who understand very well how unique and interesting they are, these Anurans, and also how we can actually contribute in our different, background, with our different background, to the conservation of Anurans. And this is very similar, I see, as what Amphibian Specialist Group is doing. That is to use different platforms and also different avenues and different methods, employed in order for us to create that joint buy-in as well as the support that we need. At the end of the day, it's all for conservation of Anurans, frogs and toads. So how to relate to sustainable and responsible tourism? And we know that responsible and sustainable tourism is all talking about how to create visitors and also tourists who are able to come from far away to a place, and they are able to get new knowledge, new skills, and new perspective and appreciation. And we use, in the context of Anurans tourism, we use Anurans as the focal point, as the focus for us to achieve this sustainable and responsible tourism. Hopefully that when they know how interesting and how captivating these Anurans are, they will also think in a bigger perspective by protecting and also appreciating our general nature much, much more. Right? So of course, this is very much related to our UN SDG 2030. If you look at SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, it is very specific, talking about promoting beneficial and sustainable tourism. And here we are using Anurans tourism for us to achieve the promotion of sustainable tourism, for us to create decent work, economic growth, as well as protection of life on land, as well as for quality education and partnership for the goals. So this is very much related. Very much related to the UN SDG 2030 in that perspective. And when I was doing sharing with local industries as well as local communities, I even bring in the idea of wellness tourism. Yeah, that is how tourists nowadays would like to go for activities and programs in tourism, not just for them to enjoy, to have a good time, but also for them to be able to um, refresh, their refresh themselves, physically as well as mentally and spiritually. So this is what we call wellness tourism. And in Japan, there is one concept called shirin-yoku, that is forest bath or nature bath. And Anurans tourism can be a component of that. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, it is all about branding for the industry, product development for the industry, but at the same time, not forgetting the most basic reason why we are doing this is for the conservation of Anurans, frogs and toads in this part of the world that we are at, and also eventually it will ripple out to other part of the world, yeah, protecting all the 7,000 over species of Anurans throughout the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, coming to the end of my sharing, which is a very short sharing, I just would like to leave you with this picture that I treasure a lot. And this is actually a picture taken with the late Professor Robert Inger. And I learned a lot from Professor Inger, the late Professor Inger. And he has given me a lot of motivation, a lot of, a lot of encouragement. And I learned so very much from him. So I would like to leave you with this precious photo of mine with the caption, Anurans matter. Let's go frogging. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kelvin, for the inspiring and eye-opening presentation. It's so exciting to see how frogs and toads can leap beyond science into the world of sustainable nature tourism, becoming true ambassadors for conservation. Now, we love to open the floor for questions from participants. Feel free to unmute yourself or type your question in the chat. We have a few questions already.
Yeah.
I'll start first. I got one.
Yeah, sure.
For those of us who are beginners, or some of us, how can we start a small-scale frog amphibian-based tourism in our own hometown?
Okay. Thank you, Miss Darcy. I guess if you look at my journey of creating Anurans tourism in Sabah for Borneo, it has to start with understanding the diversity that you have. Yeah. When I do sharing with the tourism industry in Sabah, I always tell them you don't have to know everything. You just need to know what you have in your surrounding as a first step. So let's say you have one area that you are very much interested in to try out this Anurans tourism project or idea. What you need to do is to find out what you have in your surrounding. That's number one. Number two, you have to do a lot of exposure. Yeah, exposure to people. That's the reason why in 2003 we started the ITBC Frog Museum, because we wanted to let people know, okay, hey, there's one group of people working on Anurans in ITBC UMS now, because before that we didn't have anybody. So now we have one group. So, and we have one facility as well for you to come and interact with us to see what are the work that we have done and what are the results that we have produced. So that will be step number two for you to do exposure. Of course, exposure can be done physically, but it can also be done through writing. Nowadays, in my time, about 2 decades ago, of course, we didn't have TikToks and all these Instagrams and whatnot. So we depend on writing. So that's the reason why we have written a lot, in grey publication, even though they are grey publications, but they are equally important and imperative. So we have written in magazines, in newspapers and whatnot. So I think that is a very important step as well, exposure. And thirdly is, of course, to get your partners. It is very difficult to work in silo, and we need to have our team of partners. Yeah, so like now we are partners, because we get to know each other and we know what we are doing and we are on the same wavelength. So this would be the 3 steps that I would recommend to you, Miss Darcy, if you're really interested. That is number 1, you have one area, So you need to know what that area has got to offer, yeah, in terms of Anurans diversity. Number two, create that exposure, whether it's physically or in writing or in social media format, talking about the current, status quo. And thirdly is, of course, for us to look for our partners. So that's the reason why if you look at the entire gist of my sharing today, it is very common for me to, keep on repeating about society, community, and industry, because these are our partners and we need all of them to work together. And this is what we call the quintuple helix model. Yeah, when you have the government sector, you have the private sector, you have the academia, you have the what do you call that, the local community, yeah, and then under the narrative of nature conservation or sustainable development, then you'll be able to bring this forward. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Yeah, Miss Darcy.
Yes, it answers a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have a few questions in the chat. So the
Yeah.
first one, does Anuran cause disease or infection to human, those which are living in or around human settlement?
Not the ones in Borneo, not the ones in Borneo. Yeah. I'm sure when you pose this question, I'm sure in your mind you're thinking about the poison dart or the poison, arrow frogs in South America. But in Borneo, where I work for the last 2 decades, there are no Anurans which can cause diseases or, transmit infection to you. Yeah, but they do have secondary metabolites that they produced, yeah, in order to defend themselves against predators or other species. Yeah, but it will not be able to kill us. But of course, once in a while, you do read in some local newspapers, especially in the state of Sabah, people died from consuming certain species of Anurans. And normally that is done due to carelessness. That happened due to carelessness, whereby they have ingested, maybe consumed the eggs, or they have broken the parotid glands on the skin. So that contaminated the meat, the flesh. So the answer will be no. So you are very safe. Yeah. So you are very safe in Borneo. So that's the reason why I've been able to run around the forest, knowing all the wonderful species of frogs and toads, Anurans, for the last 2 decades without any problem. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. D. Yeah. Adli. Yeah.
So the next one is, if we use advertisement or meeting calls for examining individual variation among Anurans, how many individual minimum should we record?
Let me see whether I get your question or not. You are saying if we will use advertisement or mating call for examining individual variation. Okay, normally, correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Darcy, because you work a lot on acoustic. So even one single species, sometimes they do produce variation of calls. You have got the stress calls, you have got mating calls, right? And of course, that is without saying, all the different species will also have their different mating calls. Yeah. So if you want to really study the acoustic or the mating calls of all these species, then you will have to know all of them. You have to know all of them. But then, from my experience, once you're out there in the forest, night in and night out for, a few years, you will be able to recognize a few very common calls that you always get to hear. That's the reason why I said earlier on during my presentation, using the prospecting model, there is one criterion called reliability of sightings, meaning that sometimes you don't get to see them, but you are for sure be able to hear them. For instance, the cricket frogs. Yeah. For instance, the white-leaped frogs. You will be able to hear them. Yeah. Producing those, very loud and also distinctive calling. Yeah, by the roadside. So if you want to ask me how many minimum calls you should collect or you should record, I would say record as many as you can. Yeah, as many as you can. Of course, it is not easy. Yeah, it is not easy. You can ask Miss Darcy. I have done my own recording as well, but using very, very, simple tools, just recorders. And in the olden days, we use cassettes, microphones and cassettes. And I still keep those callings in the cassette. So sometimes I play back and, just to let my students or my, my audience have a listen. But you will be surprised. They can produce all kinds of calls that will really amaze you. Some sounds like, ducks. Some sounds like bird chirping. Some sounds like, what do you call it, lizard. Yeah, lizard calls. So you'll be amazed. And my advice to you is, if you are able to and you know how to do it, go ahead and record as many as you can and work with people like Miss Darcy to analyze the acoustic variation and also for identification and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. John. Yeah.
So from Joan, we support you, Frog Prince. How much is your consultancy fee, Frog Prince? What is it?
Okay, I suppose Miss Joanne is my friend Miss Joanne from Brunei. So if you are that Miss Joanne, so thank you very much. A big shout out to you, yeah, in Brunei. So I think the question was, we are going to the next question, right?
Yep.
So when conducting Anuran focused tourism, what are the main challenges you have? Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Himas, for that question. Definitely in my journey, there's a lot of challenges. The first one I mentioned to you, if you remember the infographic produced by the Tourism Authority in the state of Sabah, where I am at, called the Sabah Tourism Board. I spent 10 years until I met a colleague of mine by the name of Mr. Murphy, affiliated to Sabah Tourism Board. Then only we managed to produce that infographic, establishing Anurans in Sabah as one of the eco treasures of tourism in Sabah. And that was in 2013. After 10 years, I've been working around, working in the forest of Borneo, as well as highlighting the idea of Anurans tourism. So the challenge is, of course, number one, creating the conviction. Of course, now it will be much easier because I've done it for you. I have blasted the trail for you for the last 2 decades. So even in Tabin Wildlife Resort now, we already have the Tabin Frog Home. And then also in Borneo Rainforest Lodge, maybe very soon they'll be having their frog pond, yeah, for tourism activity. And of course, creating our gallery bonanzas with our amazing Anurans corner for education, as well as education for sustainable development. Of course, right now it'll be much more easier because we have done it for the last 2 decades. But the challenges for me would be always to press on. Yeah, always to press on. I remember way back in 2003 when I started highlighting this idea of Anurans tourism, combining Anuran studies as well as nature tourism, as well as sustainable development. People were looking at me, differently, and not believing a word that I say. So conviction, in order to create that conviction, you really have to have a strong faith in your idea, yeah, in your project, and march on. Do not give up. I guess that is the challenge and also the antidote that I will give to you. Yeah. So of course, the other challenge is, of course, in terms of financial challenge, in-kind support. I was very lucky because when I started my career as a researcher in the Institute for Tropical Biology and Conservation in 2003, I had a very good director by the name of Professor Emeritus Datin Mariati. And she entrusted me to start this ITBC Frog Museum. Like I said, probably the first in Sabah, Malaysia, or in the entire Borneo at that time, all the way until 2009. Yeah. So that is very important, to get the in-kind support, financial support. And when it comes to financial support, like it or not, you do have to penetrate, industrial support in order to get the financial, resources that you need. You give some example like unpredictable weather, rough terrain, leeches. Well, these are common to us. You can ask Miss Darcy and also all those in amphibian specialist group like Miss Sally and also our colleagues in amphibian specialist group. These are actually common to us. In fact, unpredictable weather, rough terrain, leeches, or catastrophes. It happens. It happens. I remember in 2015. When Sabah had our first major earthquake, in 2015, the night before, I was actually right at the foot of Mount Kinabalu with my team, studying Kiau River, Sungai Kiau, in Kota Belud. And right after that incident, that earthquake, the river is gone. It's gone, covered with mud. The river is gone. So for us, this is very common. These are what we call neglectable, challenges. The main challenge for me, like I said earlier on, would be to create that conviction, that faith, and that, what do you call that, passion. And also in the process of doing that, to get your community buy-in, in-kind support, financial support from the industry. Okay, how do you overcome? I think I've mentioned that. So I hope that answers your question, Himas. Okay, how much? Oh, that is Joanne. This one will be PM. I'm learning what do you call that, youngsters catchy phrases or words. PM. Well, actually, for me, consultancy fee, since you asked, it's not an issue to me. For me, most importantly, is to give them that platform. Because a lot of time, I do a lot of sharing, I do a lot of programs and activities without, all those fees involved. But of course, having the fees will be very good because then my team will grow much bigger, then we are able to do more things for more people. But always bear in mind, the conviction, the passion will allow you a lot of time not to be restricted by whether or not you will get consultation fee. For me, to get the idea off the ground so that everybody can appreciate this idea is more important. So I hope that answers your question, Joanne. But of course, like I said, consultation fee is much appreciated. Jokingly. Okay, so we have another question. Are there river frogs, especially in Borneo? Out of the the few hundreds of species of frogs and toads that we have, there is one species that can tolerate higher salinity. Higher salinity, because you must bear in mind, Anurans, frogs and toads, they are naked skin. They have naked skin, meaning that they are very much influenced by, the salinity in their surrounding. That's the reason why you find them all the time in fresh water, in rivers, in lakes and ponds. But there is one species called a mangrove frog. Mangrove frog, whereby they can tolerate salinity higher than other species because of the habitat. And the tadpole can even tolerate even higher salinity than the adults. That is called a mangrove frog. Other than that, you will not see any other species that will go into saline water or salt water. It's all fresh water. That's why if you look at my research institute, I'm actually in the freshwater aquatic ecosystem group. Not in the marine group, because they are not in marine environment. Except for that mangrove frog that can tolerate higher salinity. All right, so I hope that answers your question. Jia Yu, I think that's how you pronounce your name, right? Okay, I hope that answers your question. Oh, no, not Tiayu. It's actually Kemaria. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. So, Tiayu, thank you very much, Tiayu, for your compliments. I'm curious about when we promote the Anuran tourism that it raised concern about over disturbance. Yeah, that's the reason why when I do my training program for people who are interested to really conduct this Anuran tourism product in the industry, the training that I give to them cannot run away, cannot escape, cannot avoid teaching them about carrying capacity. Carrying capacity. Even all the frog camps and also the frog programs that I have been doing with the community as well as the industry, there's always a carrying capacity that I emphasize on, and that is 20 people in a group for a night frogging. It cannot be more than 20 people because you don't want to destroy the habitat, especially the micro habitats, that the frogs and toads really depend on in order to survive. So you are right, there is such a concern about over tourism, over disturbance, or what do you call that, destruction of habitats and micro habitats. But that is the reason why our team, when we started the idea of Anurans tourism and we brought the idea to the industry and we created the training module, because we want to make sure that all those who are going into this project and idea know exactly what to do and what not to do. And one of them, which is very important, is about carrying capacity. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Tiayu. And another one says, I really like a business. Oh, thank you very much, Dara, for the compliment. I wanted to know what is the best strategy when promoting Anurans tourism. Do you focus on young or adult audience? Nowadays, if you look at even the industry, the trend in the industry itself, the cohort is getting younger and younger. So it is in tandem with what I have planned in the very beginning. Yeah, remember I shown you one media coverage about the frog camp, first in Borneo and Malaysia in 2012. So at that time, when I did the frog camp, it was actually done for primary school goers. So when you talk about primary school goers in Malaysia, it is from the age of 7, all the way to 12 years old. And I have started them young. I have started them young because I believe that is how you should be doing it. So in order to answer your question, I would say try to focus on young audience if you can. Yeah, because the young audience, besides giving them direct transfer of knowledge and skill during your program, when they go back, they will become your very effective ambassadors. Because parents nowadays listen to children, not the other way around. During my time, during my time in the 70s, it is the other way around. We listen to our parents, but nowadays it's the other way around. So if you are able to target our young audience, then you are getting double-edged sword. Yeah, during the program, you are able to entice them and give them a new perspective and create Anurans lovers out of them. But when they go home, they also can create that ripple effect for you, that continuity for you, because they become ambassadors of you and your program and your project and idea, promoting it to their parents. And parents, like I said, nowadays listen to children. It's not the other way around. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Dara. And then we have got Cynthia. Cynthia says, Anurans tourism has got potential, mainstream, in other Southeast Asia. Of course. Whenever you have Anuran diversity, you will have that potential. And you can actually check using the 7 criteria model that I've shared with you earlier on, looking at endemism, rarity, reliability of sightings, morphological attractiveness, behavioral enticement or attractiveness, safety, and linkage to local culture. If your diversity of Anurans in the Philippines are able to fulfill these 7 criteria, you have the potential. You have that potential, right? So I do believe, you know, in the Philippines, you have a good diversity as well, yeah, because you consist of a lot of islands, and islands biography will give you very interesting species, very high in endemism, right? So yeah, if you were to do it in the Philippines, I'm sure you will get very interesting outcome as well. Yeah, and don't forget to look for me as your partner. So I hope that answers your question, Miss Cynthia. Yeah, the Philippines. And next, oh, okay. Yeah, thank you, John. This is very wonderful. Oh, thank you, John. All right, John, are you from the Philippines? Yeah, selamat po. Yeah, all right. So, Claudia, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. How do you control the dissemination of pathogens like BD? Yeah, yeah. So that's the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, BD was a very big issue. Yeah, especially in Australia. Yeah, in Australia. I think the BD fungus has wiped out quite a few species in Australia as well as in South, in South America. But luckily, if you read papers produced in ASEAN, the situation is not that serious. Yeah, situation is not that serious. It could be due to the fact that the diversity of Anurans in Borneo, they are not so much human commensal species. They are mostly forest species, or at least forest edge species. And because of that, they are further away from human contact. But like I said, going back to the training program that I've done for people who are interested in Anuran tourism from the community and the industry, remember the first thing I mentioned just now, injecting the concept of carrying capacity, yeah, to the trainees. The other one is, of course, teaching them how to handle Anurans correctly in the field, yeah, by minimizing contact, by making sure that our hands are clean, by making sure that our clothing and apparatus are all clean before we go into the river. These are some of the things that we always mention to trainees in our training program, and also when we do our sharing programs with the community and the society. Interaction is good, but it has to be kept in a way that it doesn't endanger our local species and communities. All right. So hygiene is very important, and also knowing what to do and what not to do in the forest in contact with the Anurans is also very important in order to reduce the impact of BD fungus infection among the frog species. So I hope that answers your question, Claudia. And then we have got high risk self-safety in handling and physically getting. Normally there is no problem. Yeah, Selena, there's no problem. Because like I said, remember the module that I presented just now, the prospecting module. If you look at criterion number 6, it's about safety. There is no safety issue with Anurans so far. Definitely not through direct contact. And that is something that we cannot say for Latin America or South America species diversity, because that one can really kill. They can really kill big mammals, they can really kill human beings. Even the cane toad in Australia can kill a fully grown crocodiles or alligators. But in Borneo, we don't have such an issue. So you don't have to worry. You will not get any disease. You will not get any harm, because like it or not, Anurans have got no teeth. They have no teeth. You might have the creek frogs with artificial gum protrusion, yeah, for them to show off their strength in the big-headed males. But other than that, you have no teeth in Anurans, in frogs and toads in Borneo. So they cannot bite you. and they have no claws. Of course, a lot of time there is one species that that can really break off the you know the hind leg digit, or we call it the toe, when you disturb it, so that you know it will use that to scratch you and maybe cause a bit of bleeding. But there is a very particular specific situation to that species called the kulai. Yeah. Other than that, you don't have any safety issue. Yeah. When it comes to appreciating Anurans in the forest, you know, you can ask people like Miss Darcy and myself. We've been, you know, playing around with frogs and toads. I mean, not playing. I mean, appreciating and you know, being amazed by their beauty and uniqueness in the forest for so long, and yet we are still around. So there's no issue, no worries. Yeah, Selena, I hope that answers your question. I'm up in KK next week. Let's have coffee. Oh, okay, all right, all right. I think that is also another PM message. How do you know I love coffee? Coffee lover. All right. So next, can I have the presentation? I think this one I'll leave it to the organizer. Yeah, I leave it to the organizer. I leave it to the prerogative of the organizer. You can get in touch with Miss Darcy, the amphibian specialist group, yeah, whether you or not you can get the presentation. Yeah, okay, all right. Cynthia, thank you for the feedback. Hopefully we can collaborate. Oh, definitely looking forward. Yeah, looking forward. I'm looking forward to go to the Philippines. Yeah, because we are going to do this with Brunei, and we have done it locally here in Sabah for officers from 10 countries. So yeah, I'm looking forward to fly to the Philippines, yeah, to visit you and your beautiful Anuran species, yeah, diversity in the Philippines. Okay, thank you, Joanne. All right, thank you. Thanks for joining. Very interesting. Thank you very much, Ilian. Could you please share the present? Oh yeah, this one I leave it to the prerogative of the organizer, yeah, to Miss Darcy and also amphibian specialist group. Yeah, so thank you. All right, so I guess that is the end of all the questions, and we are very much in time because now it's about 11:39. So if there's no any further questions, I really hope that I have answered all the questions put in the chat. I hope that this presentation, even though it is very unorthodox, yeah, even for amphibian specialist group, very unorthodox, but I hope it have given you a new view perspective on how we can actually, you know, spearhead and also make it more fervent, yeah, for the sake of Anuran conservation. Yeah, and I thank all of you for joining from different countries, different part of the world. My friends from Sabah, KK, my friends from UMS, my friends from Brunei, my friends from Tabin. You know, let's keep working together like this last slide shown. Let's go frogging. Let's continue going frogging. All right. So thank you very much. And last but not the least, I really want to thank once again Miss Darcy, Miss Sally from Amphibian Specialist Group for kindly inviting me here today to do the sharing with you online. It has been my pleasure, and I am much more motivated now looking at all the questions posted, and I hope I managed to answer all the questions and do justice to your questions. So have a good day ahead. Let's keep on frogging and let's collaborate and conserve and love our Anurans even more. Thank you very much. I pass it back to you, Ms. Darcy.
Thank you once again, Mr. Kelvin, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this session, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. A recording of today's talk will be available soon on our YouTube channel and shared on our social media. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you.